Welcome to Snowflake SQL Knowledge Series and my channel Data Engineering Simplified. In this episode, we will talk about context functions. The context functions are very powerful in Snowflake but not used as frequently as expected. In this short video tutorial, I will demonstrate the power of context function in the Snowflake that can help and save your time and bring productivity. For those of you who are visiting my channel first time, I request you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and press the bell icon to get the notification. If this content is meaningful and helping you in your day-to-day work, press the like button and also share your feedback via comment section. Your feedback is a valuable asset for me. So let's start. Agenda for this session is to cover what are the context functions, why they are so important and why do they exist, how many of them are there and their classification, general versus session versus object context functions. Live demo with 8 context function in this part 1 video. We'll cover how to use with select statement, how to use to set variable values, profile role and worksheet role, and how to switch between the role when you are falling under a complex role hierarchy and you're working in a many project at the same time. Runtime behavior when used within a task object, and runtime behavior when used within a stored procedure with owner and the caller role. Where can I find all the SQL script which is used in this demo? So you can visit my website and you can get all the script and practice yourself. The link is given below. Where can I find the Snowflake documentation? The Snowflake documentations are very well available in their documentation website and you can find the link below. So what is a context function in this Snowflake? They are the system-defined function that fetch the result about the context in which an SQL statement like DDL, DML statements or any other statements is executed. These functions are evaluated at most once per statement. We will understand that what does it mean. So let's see some example of context functions. So the current database, current schema, and current role. So these are some example of context function and we will see 8 of them in this video. Why do we need to learn and master them? Enterprise don't opt for Snowflake Cloud Data Warehouse for one data project or for small data processing workload. They plan to onboard different kind of workload to solve their business problems. Enterprise don't buy many Snowflake instances and hence many projects, many environment like dev, test, production, pre-prod, QA, and all of them under a single instance. That makes their information architecture very complex. In a traditional setup, we have a multiple instances and we can really know where we are connected and we can create object. However, in Snowflake, there is a single instance and there is a logical container. So a customer object in a logical container 1 may look exactly same in the logical container 2. However, if you do not use a context function, it will be very difficult for you to understand under which context or a logical container you are creating and operating on those objects. And hence, these context function become so useful and simplify your day-to-day job when you are building complex data solutions. So let's talk about context function categories and what does it mean. So we have 8 general context function, very simple like current date, current region, current time. They are all general context function. And as on today, there are 8 general context function available in Snowflake. There are session specific context function, which gives you the session information like what is my current role, what is my current session, what is my current statement. And there are 10 of them as on today. There are session object context function in the sense they belong to a session, but they are object like a database, schema, schemas, warehouse. So as we know in Snowflake, everything is an object, whether it is account, whether it is database, whether it is schema, whether it is table and a view. And that's why these context functions are called session object context. And as on today, there are 8 of them. In future, Snowflake may add more and more context function to help the developer. So please refer the Snowflake documentation. So following context function will be discussed in this video and we will go through them in detail. So let's start with a live demo. We will use the Snowflake free trial edition to exercise these SQL scripts. So first, let's start with the section 1, how to use the context function. So let's see these functions in action and see what result they bring. Before that, I would like to show you how to list all the functions. You can use the command show functions. Just run it and you see that all the functions are available. So we have got around 575 rows. Okay, you can also use the like command. Let me run this. Now you see that I have functions, which is total 70, which says current client, current database, current date, IP address, and all those things. And these are all context function and they are say inbuilt. You can also see that they are not aggregated and is ANSI supported or not. So since they are function like average and sum, they have to be used with the select statement. So here is the list of all context function which we are going to see now. So now we got the result. So here you can see that one current region is Azure East and current version, which is a Snowflake version. So you can see the Snowflake version. It has a major minor version also. So if there is a minor version, you can really see the minor version here. Current user, which is right now I logged in with admin user, and you can see the current role, which is analyst 01, and the database is null, schema is null, and the current schema is null, and the current warehouse is null. So all those values are coming null, and that is how you can use the select statement. Now set them to see how it changes, and we can use the use SQL construct to set the database. You can also do it through here. I can really go and change the warehouse. I can also go and change the database and schema, but instead of doing that one, I am going to do through the SQL statements. So I'm selecting this statement and running it. So now it got successfully executed. I'm selecting the schema also. I'm selecting this warehouse and I'm selecting this role. Variables, all my context functions are executed and they have got the database, schema, warehouse, and role. Now if I select this statement, let's see what happens. Now you can see that one, it is my database, it is my schema, it is warehouse, load warehouse, and system admin. So this is how you can really set, and once it is set, you can start creating object under the right context. Now what if you do not give the parenthesis, right? Okay, let's try that one. If I do not give a parenthesis, it throws an exception saying that invalid identifier. Why does it like that? Because not all the context functions support parentheses, only few of them. Okay, and like current user, if you click on the current user, it works, and other context function which works without parentheses are current date, current time, current timestamp, current user, local time, and local timestamp. Other than that, all other context function needs open and closing bracket. Once you have set all the variables, and if you try to run this one, this is how the result look like. If you try to set a schema which is not in the search path, then the exception appears. And let's see, so I'm going to set a database which does not exist, and let's see what happens. Yeah, so it throws an error. If I try to do the same for the schema, it also throws the error. Now let me see what is my current schema. So my current schema is my schema, and if I try to see what is my current schemas, it will bring the 2. Now why 2? So let's decode the schema and schemas. Okay, so I have opened a new worksheet and let's see what is my current role. And now what it says that my current role is analyst 01 and my current database is null, current schema is null, current schemas are null, and warehouse is WS01. So this is how it looks like. Now let me set the database first. Now I have set my database as a DB01. Okay, and let me run this command once again. So now I can see my database is 01. Okay, now let me set the schema. Now this also got executed successfully, and let me run this command once again. So you see that one, the moment I have specified schema, and let me take some of this stuff out of this query. So you see that one, I have schema and schemas are 01. Now I'm going to change my role from analyst 01 to system admin. Now I change my role, and now let's see what happens. So now you can see that I not only have access to the schema 01, but I also have access to the public schema. What does it mean? That if I try to search an object, that object will be searched in this order. First, it will try to search in the schema 01, and then it will try to search this object into the public. Wherever it gets it, if you have not specified the fully qualified name, then this is a search pattern. It is going to do that one. Okay. However, the analyst role did not have access to the public schema because we have not given a grant, and probably in the next chapter I will show you how we play with the role hierarchy. So this is how you can use the current schemas, specifically when you are working on a multi-schema environment and trying to pull and push the data through the complex ETL. Now let's go to the section 2, where we will see the result of context function to set a variable value. Primarily, these are used in a stored procedure for auditing what are you doing in which table and which database you're operating on. So in the last section, we have learned how to use the context function in general terms. Let's see what is another use of the context function and how they can be used to set a variable value. So here we are having a construct called set my warehouse, and I am using the context function called current warehouse. Okay, one thing to notice here that I'm not using the select keyword here. You don't have to use the select keyword, and simply select this statement and run it. What it has done, it has taken the output of this statement and set the value to the my warehouse as a variable. Now, how do you print that my variable? You can go to this statement and say use the dollar sign, and now you got the value of warehouse 01 for the variable. If you have many variables and you want to set the values for each of them, you can either write it again and again, or you can follow this construct where you keep all the variable names within the bracket and use the context function this way, again within the bracket, and it has to be one-on-one mapping. Now I will just run this and see what happens. Okay, and if I try to run this command to get the values, what values have been set, you can see all of them are null, 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 because I really have not set the values. Okay, now I can set the value use database db01 and use schema01. Okay, so I can run both the command together, and once it is executed, I am running this command once again, and let's see what happens. So now I got my values appropriately. So this is how you can use the context function and variable to work together. When it is going to be used, specifically when you're calling a stored procedure or when you're calling a stored procedure through the task, okay, in that case, it is difficult to know specifically when you are debugging what context was used for before performing any operations over the objects, right? For the logging purpose and for the auditing purpose, we can really use this variable and the context function together and fetch the values. So you can also use the current schemas, and certainly it will give you a list of items, but actually it is not a list, it is just a string. In that way you can use a split function to split it, but anyhow we have a better way to solve this problem. So this is how you get the different values. This is all about how to use the variables and the context function together. Let's jump into section 3, where we'll see how to set and switch the role within the worksheet. When you have a lot of role working on a different project and each project has set up a different role for you, it will be a little confusing for you, and it is little inconvenience for you to go and change the function using the web UI. So in this small demo, we will try to go through how to switch your role using SQL statement. Now let's understand how this role switching works. One of the way you can switch the role by using the context function. From here you can click on the change button and you can really pick any one of the role. But when you have a lot of roles from different project and from the different environment, it becomes a little difficult to use these things, and sometimes you get confused. One of the biggest problem, if you create an object under a different role, then that role becomes the owner of that object, and you have to give a special grants to allow other roles to access this object. Before we get into the demo, I would like to first explain what is the arrangement done here. If you have not understood the role hierarchy in Snowflake, please refer my other video. The link is given above in the card and the description below. Here we have a developer 01 and analyst 01. These roles are different roles and they can do different activities. We have an admin here. An admin can also access the developer role, and admin can also access the analyst role. As per the Snowflake guidelines, the system admin should be able to access all the roles, and this is how the hierarchy is met. So now what a developer can access? Developer can create a table, and developer can also use the warehouse. The analyst cannot create a table, but analyst can use the select statement on the table, can also use the warehouse. So this is a small piece of code through which we have really created this entire structure. And now I have mapped all those roles to a single user, which is called admin here. You can also follow this code construct access to an individual role, individual user to a different role. So we will not go through this entire things. This piece of code tells how exactly we have created the different roles, how we have given the different grants to those roles, and how they are operating with each other. Okay, so now let's start with the roles. So if you are in an environment and you want to know how many roles you have it, you can simply use the command called show roles, and it will bring all the roles. In our case, 60 roles are there. Now if I want to find a specific role, I can also use the like command, and it will bring me only those roles. So here you see that one, I have a 3 roles which is having a text 01. So admin, analyst, and developer. This is a typical arrangement in most of the project. So if I am an analyst, okay, I first use role construct to switch the role. Now I also want to use this db01 and schema01. Let me check what is my role, what is the database, and what is the schema. So I see that when I am operating on a schema01, I am operating on db01, and I am the analyst role. So this becomes a context. Now I want to do the select star from a table 1. Okay, if I do that one, yes, I am able to do that one. But if I'm going to create a table called temporary table, I cannot do that one because I do not have enough privileges, and that is how this grant and the role switching works. But I am also a developer along with analyst. So what I have to do to create the table? So I have to switch the role. The moment I switch the role, you see that one route. Right now my role is analyst. Okay, I am switching the role to a developer role and see what happens. The moment I switch the role, now I change the developer role. Okay, as a developer, now I want to verify my context using the SQL statement. Yes, my role is developer role. And now I want to create the temp table here, and I ran that one, and yes, the table is created. So this is how, when you have a lot of roles in an organization or in a Snowflake instance across multiple project, multiple environment, make sure that you use role function effectively, and always make sure that you use context function to switch your role and validate them before you create any kind of object. Let's jump into the section 4. What role does it take for a serverless compute like a task and Snowpipe? So what happens when we are using a serverless component or serverless services? What kind of role is being used? So let's explore in this quick demo. So I'm choosing the system admin role here, and I'm also choosing a database called MyDB and MySchema. And before I perform any operation, I'm going to run my context function. Yes, I am right now operating on with the role system admin on MyDB and MySchema. So I'm creating a my logging table. So now this table is created. I'm also inserting a record here, and let's see what happens. And let me run this select statement. So you see that one, I am right now with the role, my username is admin, role is system admin, MyDB, MySchema, and compute warehouse. Perfectly fine. Now I am creating a task called my log task. Okay, and that task exactly insert the same statement what we just executed above. However, task is executed through a serverless component, and let's see what kind of role and user ID does it use. So once the task is created, you have to resume the task. And if you have not seen my other video on the task, please refer the card above or the description below. So now I have resumed my task. Now first see what the information schema talks about, whether my task is running or not. So I click on this one, and it says my task is running and it is scheduled. And right now we have only one record into the table. Perfectly fine. We'll wait for a minute. So now you see my insert got executed successfully, and this is the insert statement which got executed. And if I run the select statement on the log table, I can see the two things. Now the difference here is that on the first time, my username was admin, which I executed manually through the worksheet, and when it got executed through the serverless component, it used the system. And that is how you can really create a audit log table. Let's jump into section 5, where we will understand the stored procedure and its caller and a owner role function, and how does it really change when we invoke those stored procedure with the caller and role, and what does it register runtime for those current role function. So we have seen in the previous section that how the task treat the user ID. We will see what is the caller and the owner concept when you invoke a stored procedure. So for this one, I'm again choosing my role first, again choosing my database schema, and making sure that the context which I am operating on is verified. Yeah, this is done. Now I'm going to create a table called logging underscore sp underscore 01. Okay, and here I am inserting a record, and let's validate this record. Okay, so here it is log id with 1, my username is admin, so rest of the things looks perfectly fine. Now I have written a very simple stored procedure. Here I say execute as a caller. So here I'm writing execute as a caller, in the sense I will use the role of the caller. Okay, and here it is simple same statement, and let me run this stored procedure. So I ran this stored procedure. So let me run this stored procedure by calling it, and I must have two record. Okay, and both of them are almost same, perfectly fine. Okay, now I am creating another stored procedure. It is the same stored procedure structure, only difference is that here no matter who calls, it is always executed with the admin user. Okay, so now I am creating this, and I did that one. Okay, now let me call this stored procedure one by one, and let me see what is the result. So I have got 3 rows, 1 I manually inserted and 2 got inserted through the stored procedure. Now, as we have done the task, we will do the same thing, but the task will call this stored procedure. So first I am defining a task which will run in every 1 minute, and it will call the with owner. Okay, and let me resume this task, and I resume this task, and let it run. We will come back to that, and I am calling, I am defining another task, and I am calling the stored procedure with the caller. Okay, and I did that one, and let me resume this task too. Okay, and let me see my table. I see a lot of data has been inserted, and I can see that some data which got inserted through the admin and some data which got inserted through the system. So this is how the stored procedure within the task works, and according to the owner and the caller, the role is being changed. And if you have any privilege problem and grant problem, make sure that you pay attention to the context function, whether it is being called by the owner or whether it is being called by the caller, and whether those caller roles are having necessary privileges to operate on those SQL objects. So this is how this entire context function works, and they are very, very important when you are dealing with a complex ETL where you have a lot of task, stream, stored procedures, and you are working across multiple databases and multiple schemas. Thank you for watching. And hey, before you go, if you are benefiting from any of my content, I would love to hear about your success story. Please share it in the link down below.